love it.
Check that out. Check out the. You need to look at that.
Sometimes with the really flamey fakes, you're just sitting there twisting it, and it does not change. And that's a huge red flag.
But we can look at it and be very suspect immediately. No.
Yeah, like that Nick joint looks very odd.
Poly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that it's misrepresented as American product, and
That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I was going to say putting Made in USA and Gibson on the
Yeah.
headstock is where everything goes wrong. Okay, so today we have a very, very special video because this is a video I've been working on for 7 or 8 months now at this point, trying to get everybody's schedules aligned, and it finally happened. So I bought this fake Les Paul from a friend of mine who was getting rid of it with the idea of I wanted to make a video showcasing all the little subtle things that are wrong with these that can help people hopefully not buy these fake Les Pauls. A lot of us have friends who have unfortunately purchased some of these thinking they were real, and it's just heartbreaking to see someone spend so much money on something that is fake. Now, instead of just me talking about this guitar myself, I wanted to get people who knew so much more than me about it to talk about it, and I think that we have some of the most knowledgeable people just in the world here. In the video, we've got Bonamassa, Book, Phil Jones, Tom Murphy, Joe Glazier, Nick Drussel. I mean, just the amount of knowledge in this room. We should all just appreciate that they wanted to take the time to do something like this. So again, thank you to all of those guys, and a special thank you to Joe Glazier and Nick Drussel. They were very instrumental in helping me set all this up. So they put in a bunch of extra man hours and all stayed after work to do this video. Also, if you guys see something else that's wrong with the guitar, please list it down in the comment section, and I'd just be curious to know how you feel about this idea of these fake Les Pauls still saying Gibson and Made in USA even though they are not. So a couple of quick disclaimers. We are going to tear up this guitar. This is all my idea, so if you're upset at anybody, be upset at me. My outlook is that if us tearing up this one guitar gives us a better look into what it's made out of, how well it's crafted, all these different things, and maybe this video stops 100 people from buying a fake Les Paul, it is worth it. You will hear multiple times people say in the video that we have to respect that this is a guitar and we are tearing up a guitar. Whether it says, whether it's a fake Gibson with Made in USA on the headstock, none of us like the idea of tearing up a guitar, but since it's kind of for the greater good situation, we're all kind of on board for it. And the second disclaimer is keep in mind that there's only one of me. So if the cameras move around a little bit too much, there's 6 people that I'm trying to record and listen to and talk to and interact with and all these different things. So again, sometimes the camera might move around a little bit too much. I'm doing my best to try to create the vibe that you are in the room with us. That's all I want to do. You're pretty much seeing it through my perspective because that's just where my eyes and the camera are going. So I just, at the end of the day, hope you guys enjoy this. I hope it's very informative, and I can't thank the guys who took time out of their schedules because everybody's busy to do this. And, you know, I just hope you enjoy the hang. So without further ado, this is a fake Les Paul.
Ready?
Yeah.
You're bailing.
Why don't you explain the
What's going on?
The premises.
So Robert brought this to me, and so your friends, right?
Yeah, I bought it off my friend who
got
got
it from his friend, and we get this question quite a bit about if something looks real, and some people are very sorely mistaken, obviously. And so we decided to do this video and kind of tear it apart, give every little aspect that we can point out so people can have some kind of reference, and it might be glaringly obvious to us, but I don't think any detail should go unnoticed. So
yeah,
I think that's the whole gist.
Well, also because they just confiscated that whole.
Yeah, it was funny. We were talking about that just before.
Everybody
all that
started
happened.
texting me.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see about? Yeah, we see it all the time. We know they're all over the place.
Yep. And there's so many glaring things. I mean, you can see it from 50 feet away if you know what you're looking for.
So while this looks like a mummy, it's a non-American made Les Paul, what people call gyps.
Do it.
So what we're going to do is talk about the little differences and.
Yeah, we'll just kind of go around and you guys, first impressions, like, what are things that you're seeing
Burst
wrong?
dead on.
So you're right. The look on everyone's face is pretty. It's
Well-
pretty good. Yeah, what you got first, Joe?
Were you fooled?
I'm in this. I'm looking at it. Is like the headstock shape is way off.
Yeah.
The logo is the silk screen. I mean, that's just what I'm looking at now.
This
You
end.
know, truss rod covers. This is, but it's $200, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Like,
Yeah, what do you see, Tom?
Well, I mean, are we
Go for
going
it.
to analyze that this is not a 59 reissue Les Paul, or is it just a Gibson Les Paul?
Yeah, it's just more like Gibson.
There are quality issues and design issues that tell me it's not even really a Gibson.
Right.
And it may be an okay guitar, but I mean, we see things from a different perspective, because I want to see that silk screen. Well, that's not even a silk screen, that's a decal. This white binding glaring right now. I don't know of any of our Gibson guitars that possess that or have even recent past. But there are things like these knobs. I don't know what they're supposed to represent, but they are a color that doesn't appear anywhere on a real Gibson. So the fact that it wasn't made by Gibson is the biggest problem, because it says Gibson on the headstock. So you could get into misrepresentation, legal issues, and all of that. But I mean, we can look inside the guitar, and there'll probably be really definite signs of routings that are obviously not Gibson.
Yeah.
But we can look at it and be very suspect immediately. No.
well, my question is though, being in the Epiphone business for the last 15 years, is like, I mean, they get these things to a price point where they're selling them on these tertiary websites for $229. So I'm like, how do they how would they get the price point down to that level?
Yeah.
You know, without, you know, it's like, who's making this stuff, and how do you even source whatever these crude parts are? How are you sourcing that and getting it? I mean, I'm sure the wiring is like really cheap, and everything's really cheap, but you know, our Epiphones are, you know, I struggle to get them under $1,000 every year, because I think that's good value, and they're much better made than these. But I mean, if they're doubling their money, they're making this thing for $80, $90,
And shipping.
and shipping.
They're putting it,
Yeah.
putting it in a box and in a crate.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the biggest. I mean, it's the business model, and because somebody said, hey, this is what we should start doing. You know, my father sent me a counterfeit Joe Bonamassa signature one, because you got to let people at Gibson know that they're doing these. I'm like, they're very well aware. And what are you going to do about it? You can't stop it.
No, because I brought the
Somewhat flattering.
counterfeit Trini Lopez Dave Grohl thing in. Well, they go, we can't do anything about it. I mean, what do you want us to do about it? Yeah. They don't have any jurisdiction there. They can take note that it's being done, but also when we look at this and we know about what it takes to put one of these together, from the materials, the milling, to put it together and bind it, that's glued on there.
I wish I wasn't.
To painting. How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Who's got the time?
Well, having been in a number of these factories where this stuff is happening, I don't know if you've been to the Epiphone factories or something, but the very little time goes into doing this, and people are very fast, and I'm not sure that our concept of what a labor hour is.
Yeah, they're making cents
it takes-
instead of dollars.
Not only that, what something we might look at and go, well, that's a 10-minute job. They look at it and they go, that's a 1.5-minute job. You can't get all those frets in a 1.5 minutes. That's not your job. And some of the other stuff, like for instance, the finish, is if you have to put this finish on and buff it, it has to go on thick. because you can't afford to burn through
It's
it.
gonna be
And
dripping.
if you're not making something where you have some sort of criteria of how thick it has to be, then what do? You put it on. It's polyester, so they just put it on.
Dip it.
They burn sand it quickly. I'll bet there's not an hour and a half in this whole guitar.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine.
What's funny is
that.
it's like everything is so it's all skin deep. Because
Yeah,
as we
well,
start
that's
tearing
right.
stuff
Yeah.
apart, you just realize how shoddy it is.
One of the features of a Les Paul, as we all know, over its life, and especially now because we have to try to adhere, is a beautiful wood figured maple. I have a Tokai Love Rock in my shop now. That's veneer. I was stripping it. It's a veneer. It's not real. It's this thick.
So the wood's composite, right? The wood would be a composite, so it's probably not
Yeah,
mahogany.
this may be the same stuff your filing cabinet would be made out of.
Yeah, vascular.
No,
just
from
some cheap wood,
IKEA.
yeah.
It's an
I
IKEA.
mean,
Yeah. Well-
this is probably either painted on.
Or decal. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
been
Yeah.
doing them with decals, but
Or it's a veneer that's about as thick as a business card.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
less than a
It
25,000.
could very easily be that.
By the time
In which
you get
case,
color.
it's not expensive at all. It does appear that that it's not plywood. It's not a plywood body.
But just look at
No
the body
seed.
joint lines. How
That's interesting up here on the what's going on there. It's pretty well.
Something bad, but you just paint it red and go over it.
Yeah.
There's graining sinkage in the finish, or where it's never level sanded. It's because it's really, really, really thick.
Could put CA glue, grind it quick, shoot it
Yeah,
with a poly
yeah.
boom.
Yeah, so there's something right here. We'll fill it in and keep going.
Oh, I'm sure. And if you see, having been through the Gibson factory, looking how fast stain goes on, it goes on much, much faster. You can see this little area where they didn't quite hit the sunburst. This quite likely was a robotic paint job. This quite likely,
really?
these quite likely hung up and went through just one after another.
And see, on a real Gibson Les Paul, which is this supposed to represent, it's mahogany neck and back. So we expose that in every model that we can. Like you're looking through the finish to the grain of the wood. It's not fantastic, but it has a real subtle beauty to the mahogany. You see the specks of grain. I don't know what this is.
And it could be a cap, that they have here with it stopping. I can't tell for sure, but it may be just, the back may be a laminate.
It's not out of the question that we could take this apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, the plan was to, we're going to saw it in half pretty much.
Which,
Look at it.
Which, by the way, it's us taking liberties, because if we do that, a guitar is a guitar, and
You have to do
any
it
kind of
back
music, could come from
Could come from
guitar,
it.
just like this. The greatest, most memorable music, in 50 years, only about 5% of that will come from expensive guitars at all, and. So, wow! Whoa! Did you see that? Holy cow!
Oh, I love it.
Check that out. Check out you need to
Look
at that.
Oh
No,
my
that's-
God.
That's not a route. That's a
Bullet
chisel.
Whoa! I just saw that.
They use
Wild.
That's a
Gundrill at Gibson and
That's a-
comes in and does that, but that is pretty
And
wild.
and you always on a Gibson will see a little nut, an adjustment nut
Yeah.
out here where the rod that's helping you adjust the neck.
So is there no truss rod in this? Oh, it's way down in there. Way down in
What
there.
kind of wrench it would take, we're not really sure, but
Except that it is metric, I would guess. Yeah.
it probably is
Yeah.
metric. But like Joe says, how much would all these parts cost you if you bought a package?
Because even though they're clunky, I mean, they still took time to make.
Yeah.
What's kind of intriguing me though is the demand, and where is the demand? Because if there wasn't a demand, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
the business. Because this is like the same kind of tchotchke business that you go anywhere in the world and they got the
Yeah.
same kind of construction. They make the little guitars, the rock star guitars.
Yeah.
You can see them in Paris and everything.
I've been to Korea and I bought Nike tennis shoes. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, but like the watch guys will go. Well, there's the Rolex Super Fakes, and those are 4,000 or 5,000, and
What?
and they like
The
even.
guy said he bought this in Times Square.
Yeah, exactly. And but we were talking earlier. It's like there's people who make high-end fake Les Paul.
Oh yeah.
And
a good
then
example. I mean, there's the Aaron over here.
I was gonna say, do you still have that gill?
Yeah.
And that is true. That's a good point. I mean, some people make a craft out of crafting replications of really good quality guitars. How they have time to do that, I don't know. But
I also think it's I mean, there's some people I've had kids that think they own a Les Paul bring something like this for me to sign, and you can't say anything because they bought it at a music store. This is a Gil Yaron.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Early
Joe,
one, too.
they also take this to be literal. This part where it says "Made in the USA."
Yeah.
They assume that that's.
Yeah.
yeah,
After World War II, they named a city USA in Japan, and so they could actually have it made in the USA. USA.
So
Is that true or is that just a story? It's a good story.
Oh my God.
Do you know what year this is, Nick? You said early.
It's pretty early because he does
Yesterday.
the Gibson
Shows
logo
Gibson
So
on.
tell
before he switched it.
tell the story of what this is.
Oh yeah, let's explain what this.
Yeah, this is a copy from, is it Israeli or Egyptian? Do you know?
Israeli.
Israeli.
Yeah, Gil Yaron.
And he made these for years with this logo, and then I believe gotten some hot water for that.
Yeah.
And so now the logo's changed.
Right.
I'm not sure the year that it changed, but I mean, he's considered one of the best at replicating. You can see the colors off, but a lot of it, even though you can find things,
Yeah, it still looks
at
so much
first
better.
sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how do you feel with it, Joe?
The serial numbers, the font, it's extremely difficult to get
just use it.
to fake the font.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's close, but no. The last one I bought, a guy in a music store walked up to me. I was behind the counter. He goes, "Hey, check it out." And I look and I know, because of what I've had to do, I'm looking at a real serial number. And it was 91972. He said, "Is that a 1972?"
Yeah.
Oh, I was so tempted.
Yeah.
Flipped it over, and it was awesome, gorgeous, beautiful. But because I had people offer me thousands of dollars to get the number right at my shop for a guitar they were having redone, and that one's not right, but it's
Yeah.
sort of
But
okay. It's not the right
like the
size.
binding, the way it curls in there is a little off. But he still didn't put that big fat binding in the horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put that little wedge
Has a
in there.
little too much curl to it because the top's over carved. But
And it is a little
That's the
thicker,
one
yeah.
thing about
Should-
like the high-end fake 59s is generally on a real Sunburst Les Paul, you could twist that thing to where your flame goes away or
Oh, yeah.
or it pops. Sometimes with the really flamey fakes, you're just sitting there twisting and it does not change.
It does not.
And
Yeah.
that's a
Not
huge
deep
red
enough.
flag.
And keep in mind here, we're looking at a really good guitar
Yeah.
for the most part.
it's
Yeah,
solid.
let
It's
me
not
see
real.
the numbers that the serial number that you guys were talking about.
If you lay on a clear piece of something, a real serial number on top of that, it won't.
It won't line up.
match.
Well, I could. You want to know the numbers that spooked me? What's this? 0862. The 9. The O. The 8's okay. 2's way too bold. Same thing with that 6. I'm not going to tell you why,
Does
they're
it have,
wrong, but I'm going to tell you that that's why they're wrong.
does it have the
three is
curls
right
on,
off.
You can turn the cameras off, and I'll tell you why they're wrong.
on the feet of the two? Does it have the curls, the little, just like on a 7, it'll have the
Yeah.
7 with it a little.
The 9s and the O's are the ones that they never got right. But once we take the mics off,
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Do you want to show?
But these are two different animals here.
Yeah.
This is a cheap.
We got Tom a gift.
Yeah,
we all pitched in.
this goes to Book after we're done.
And we feel the best about this one
Yeah.
because it was made in
Both
USA.
Gibsons.
We're in awe. In a way, yes. This is,
Well, let's flip this one over and see what's your first impression of?
see which one of these just immediately strikes you as being nicer. So some of the things, for instance, a tell, maybe not a tell, but a difference between the imports and a true Gibson is the Gibson fret placement calculation is around the Pythagorean calculation of the rule of 18, so-called rule of 18, whereas actual accurate fret placement is done by running a function of the 12 through to 2, which is 17.817 as opposed to 18. None of these Asian guitars, and I don't know about these other fakes, abide to the rule of 18 because it never occurred to them that Gibson was making this critical mistake. Not a mistake, but I mean it's a very antiquated way of laying out frets. On a traditional Gibson, as you go up the neck, if you tune open, you end up and intonate at the 12th fret. You end up flat. You come back to 0 at the 12th fret, and then it goes way sharp above that. And none of the Epiphones have this problem. It was corrected at in Bozeman, as you guys obviously know, some years ago, and the factory 5 years ago, and then at the custom shop not at all because it's a historical authentic
That's
feature.
right. But I'm looking here because I'm on this side of it. But things like this, in terms of detail, the Gibson side dot will never look like that, ever. It may sound trivial, but it's important. It's not Gibson. You can just look at it and see that it's not, because they don't have the same material. I don't even know what that is.
The size is wrong.
If it's a pipe, the size is completely wrong. And we usually put a piping in there, cut it off, or that we have literally tortoiseshell dots that are sort of cone shaped, pump down in, stand them level, and that's another detail that makes the Gibson really hard to make and really cool and beautiful.
Tommy, how do you feel about those grayish purple tuner buttons?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's an impression.
You put your finger on the collar.
It's like gray. Purple,
Put that up next to it because those are not bad. And
yeah, those look good. Those look really good.
It's kind of funny because this is the impression of these guys: too big and pea soup green.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. My favorite thing on this is the neck joint. Just to look at it straight on from behind.
Yeah, completely crooked. Yeah.
Kind of like listing to one side.
Yeah.
It wants to be a Firebird. It's so bad.
So do people buy these thinking they're real Gibsons? Right?
I think it happens to a lot of people because maybe
First
30,
time
40
buyers.
feet away,
Yeah.
you look at it and
Yeah.
it says Gibson, it says Made in USA on it.
They brought them here.
They just found those in LA.
There was all these.
Well, not this, but they were Gibsons or something. And everybody, a bunch of people called me and texted me, "Did you see that? Do you know that?" Yeah, we know about it because they've been doing it for a long time. But to the average person, it seemed like, "Oh man, you have to bust those guys." Well, no.
What's
Were
this,
there
like,
was
Timo?
thousands?
Yeah.
Right?
They
Is that
said
that?
if you went to
I don't know where
$1
he got
that
it
they
from.
were real. If you don't know, there's a lot of these out there in a pawn shop. 9 out of 10 times, one of these guitars will be fake.
The details, the screw size.
Oh,
the
sure.
head of the screw maybe made no difference to whoever was making this. They didn't realize that if they didn't get that exactly right, even the punch, even the shape of the punch of the Phillips head, that anybody who's seen a lot of these would be able to tell in one quick glance that the screws weren't right.
How much would it cost to make that guitar? Just like that.
No, we just discussed that.
Yeah. How much would it cost?
Joe,
You mean in the United States?
Yeah.
Oh, it would 10 times what
Yeah.
10 times what the guy paid for this.
Right.
he thinks
We
it might
have,
be constructed in an hour and a half.
Yeah, there's probably an hour and a half of human time in this.
Is that right?
And the thing about it is, we were talking about the fact that are people fooled by this? We've had people come into the shop and learn, to their dismay, that the guitar they had wasn't real. We always say, do you want to know? Do you want to know about this guitar? Rather than Joe, you made the point that you can't just take some little kid and break their world.
Yeah.
But
That was great, man.
Especially if Santa brought it.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh.
and Santa's standing there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like you said, it is still a guitar at the end of the day. I mean,
It's still a guitar. What was your first guitar? What did you start on? Was it
I started on an Erlewine Chiquita.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with
Mark
like
Erlewine.
Mark Erlewine,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guy who was most famous for the Laser, that Johnny Winter played.
Right.
And
Austin, Texas guy.
and it was a Chiquita. It was like this.
Those
small.
are really collectible.
It was a mail order thing.
Eddie Van Halen definitely used
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He had a double pickup line.
Well, see, like we said, there are tooling marks that are pretty consistent. Now, you could look at a 80s Gibson real Les Paul, and it won't have what we know to be a 50s style routing. They weren't doing it the same way because those pots that are completely wrong, they have a shaft on them. In the 50s, they were all short. The top wasn't very thick. You put it through there, put a nut on it. Well, then they went to a CPA, it was called, and the shafts were about that long, so they just prop them up, and everything was on a little
On a plate.
so
Yeah.
you could solder it really quick, which I think they still use that. But we want to go back to individual pots, individual wires, and so that's why this floor here has to be routed at a slant, which sounds real exotic. It's not. You put it under a router and slant it, and it routes across there and makes this thinner, as thin as this, so all the pots will fit through. Well, this has just got a big hole routed in it.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
not.
Forstner bit.
Oh,
But somebody did make an effort to give it that 4-leaf clover shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
They just
yeah.
didn't. They just didn't realize what the level of detail it
Look-
takes to
look at the
fool the
truss rod hole.
fetish.
Boy. Yeah, that's something. I love the binding, particularly the neck binding.
Isn't that something?
Fantastic. The binding.
Nice
is-
and bright.
Yeah, and the shape of the pick guard, lovely.
So run through those two things. What the instant instantly catches your eye.
It's just you could. What is this fretboard material? What is this like?
Yeah, who knows?
we're gonna find out.
Chalk. It looks.
We're gonna saw this open.
Yeah, it's that's the first thing I see. The binding is like just so weird looking, white. Gibson logos in the wrong place. There's weird looking tuners. Les Paul is too big. This bit.
Yeah,
man,
it's-
too
That's
big.
it's a decal. Yeah, the model's too small.
Yeah, the pickups just look like some kind of like Hondo,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, like that neck joint looks very odd.
Yeah, the heel's so much bigger
the
than
back of the
they were.
headstock. The tuner is up too high, right? Is that looks like this? It looks like there's
Yeah.
too much space here. Yeah.
Yeah, there should be more space, a little bit more space between the tuners.
Right. Yeah.
And keep in mind, this was never meant to be a replica of a
Right,
50s Les
sure.
Paul.
Right.
They just grabbed some basic specs. Now this is that's different. That's
This one
much more
looks way
critical.
more convincing, right? I mean,
This
it's
was
just
probably
even
done from
back-
photos. And if you didn't have any idea what was important, you wouldn't know that if you didn't get the tuners spaced out right, that it would matter. And so this is what you would do. But in looking at one of these, trying to make sure you know what you're buying, all those details matter.
This is the way this body's cut's wrong, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like it goes down too much, right? That's not right.
Yeah. The shoulder does slope in
really?
50s guitar. Yeah, in the 80s it wasn't. It was flat
It was
from
flat
here
there,
in
yeah.
to make it easy or to face
To
off.
face it off, yeah.
Face
I
it, face
got
this
my,
off.
compared, I got my 57 gold.
Please, please.
But see, we look, and for years people have known this is called open O, open B. At the top of those letters, the pearl doesn't come together. That's just nerdy bull crap. But it's real,
But it's a,
and so they captured that effect
yeah.
here, but
That's a nice
blew it in a
deal.
lot of other ways.
But also, this
Good
is this even shell or is this pearloid plastic? That's pearloid plastic.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be
I have no
plastic.
way
and
to
use
but it's
pearl.
simply left. I
Yeah.
love the black and the words.
Yeah, put this one up.
That's killer.
Yeah. But yeah, let's look at the cut of the body, right? See how close that
Oh
is?
yeah. Look at that.
So
But the binding's a little thicker too than here, so it sort of mellows that out a little bit.
and the see how far the space is where the tuners start. Is that,
Put them side by side here.
is I wrong about that?
Ooh, if we find out there's something wrong.
I suspect.
Uh-oh.
I've had my suspicions about this guitar.
Nothing would
for a long
surprise
time.
me at this point. Yeah.
And see, we know that early on the logo was down like this, called low logo. It was moved up closer to accomplish what? Make more room for this, I guess. I don't know.
You ever see a 61 335 .NET? Just post long guard.
Yeah.
They put the logos back low.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I was looking at it, I'm like, that's a low, and I had
A low
two.
logo.
And I'm like, it, for some reason, only on 335.
Well,
Yeah.
also
Very different.
68 gold tops.
Very different.
I worked on one that had moisture damage, and the logo was not even a Gibson
Mhm.
print. It was a block of pearl that they would put a mask on
Mask and
and
spray.
spray it,
Yeah.
and then peel the mask off, and it would remain
Robert?
Gibson.
Yeah, look.
2 fingers there, 1 here.
The
They left these
location
about
of
the right place and they
control
shoved
pockets.
those
Shove
over.
everything
Yeah.
down.
You know, if you just look at these two logos close next to each other, you can see that this is vaguely like the Les Paul screen, but it kind of goes around a circle.
Yeah, it's very on. Well,
Even the way
this
the
is
word,
real.
even the font on model is very
Oh, yeah.
clear. And the spacing, it's almost like spaced in an exaggerated way. They space this like you would if you were just doing
A Les Paul standard.
printing or a business card.
Well, I determined on the first historics, because we went to the silk screen, that I would space as a line between the two tuners, between the right through the D. The first
And
guitar
it's
show, guys
probably,
going, silk screen's in the wrong place.
The
What?
thickness of the
Yeah.
the
It's
board
between
itself
the O
may
and the
be a
D.
full quarter. Those were like
Oh.
220.
Okay, so go back to your mom's basement.
So this is look, you could take a shot at what the top
Yeah, real.
But a very traditional cavity in that brass hex nut.
And then the metal steel stamp washer.
I mean, just look at these two things, and they're so glaring. It's like that says the same as that. That's so graceful and beautiful. This is very bulky.
Well, this is also at an angle, and this is not an angle, and it's actually much more aesthetically pleasing sitting at an angle.
Well, and some of the stuff is stuff that someone could pick up. I mean, you guys obviously have seen thousands of these, but there are little things that you've mentioned that the normal person like myself could see and just be like, oh,
Well, except if
Why
they took
is this
this
not
off the
checking
wall at a pawn shop, hand it to you, and you see the side dots go, no thanks.
mhm.
Because it's not worth whatever they
Come around
want.
here, you can see the difference in the side dots and the size.
Oh yeah.
In my own personal humble opinion, nothing makes a guitar look cheaper than when you see the nut that looks 18 inches above
Yeah.
the neck, and it's
And just
the
a
board
sharp
is
angle.
dipped down like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like the sign of a cheap guitar, right? That's it. What causes that?
Yeah, everybody wants their board to be concave.
Yeah.
That makes bending the strings a lot easier.
Yeah.
How's the switch tip?
The
Check out
horribly,
for you.
horribly, yeah.
Well, the switch and the switch tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, the,
Hard click is a great.
Hard click.
the switch
It
is,
bounced.
Wow.
Underneath.
that wouldn't bounce, but that was real. That would.
So I'm kind of curious about what the body and neck are made of. We've all
I will preface this though, is when you talk about a cheap guitar, knockoff Les Paul, they've been making knockoffs for
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
60 years.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like was it Magic Sam?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, great.
Ruling on that.
Yeah.
What was it, a Hondo or
Yeah.
you know, it's actually a collectible guitar because he played it. It was
Right.
the same.
Yeah.
So to some kid, you know,
Oh, dude.
maybe change the world with this thing,
Make noise. Yeah.
but it's it'd be hard to do that without putting more money into the guitar than you paid for it.
Even
to
if you
play it.
could, I mean, you're totally right. We have to respect the fact that a guitar is a guitar, and it's a it's an equivalent music making tool to this. But the fact is, buying this isn't equivalent to buying this or something else. And so our objective isn't to make fun of this or make fun of somebody who's making music on it, because I can guarantee you some badass is out there killing it on a guitar like this. But what we're really just talking about is how do you look at it, and what is different about it, and how do they make these for $290?
Yeah.
Well, who are these
What we
guys?
were- yeah. Yeah, they
gonna run
for everybody. You know, the girls will scrape the binding.
And you mentioned they smell weird, didn't you say? The wood smells weird.
It's very bizarre.
It can always go back.
So that's what we were saying. Smell the
Smell the plastic.
smell the yeah.
Formaldehyde.
It's a nice clean cut, Nick.
The smell of
Good
it.
work.
I thought I was going to get it straight and I had to curve it, so I didn't run through the whole thing.
No, but it'll go back together again. No, you'll tell.
It's a bit like the USA guitar, so you keep it.
But
like
you know
that.
what you can see here,
Fuel.
Joe. You were talking about whether this is real wood. It is wood, but it's a veneer.
Yeah.
It's not very thick.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So they steamed it and pressed it on and glued it in place.
Just like a Tokai.
But it looks
So what
kind
do
of like mahogany, doesn't it?
I was gonna say, what kind of wood do you think that is?
It looks a lot like mahogany.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the
And,
same
and the
stuff
cap
they use
is not maple, it's mohawk.
same stuff they use at IKEA.
You know what's interesting is that this is this a flame? No, this is a photo flame.
Is it?
Well, yeah, they
Look at
don't.
how it-
They
look at
don't
how it-
flip flop.
How it flip flops. Is that a photo flame or is that wood?
It's a good chance it's
That thing looks
photo
cool.
flame, but
It looks
you-
cool like that.
I was
I
gonna
mean-
say I don't hate it.
At least
No,
it's
it probably
a
would.
maple
Look how
veneer,
thick
if
it is.
nothing else.
Well, it's a
so.
veneer, but the question
Yeah.
is it photo flame on top?
You might saw the horn off. You know, just
Have you got a scraper?
like pick out.
Yeah.
Nick Druschel custom.
We'll make this.
Yeah, drag out
Guitars?
a razor blade. We'll just scrape it and see.
All right, let me do that. Let me get you
That'd
a
be
razor blade.
interesting.
This will be your
Build
All
a
right.
cell phone to the side and let the cell phone work.
That sounds like a Gibbons idea.
Yeah. You get the one with the iPad.
But you know what the issues here is? Are we saying these guitars aren't any good? No, we're saying
No, it's just
they can function. I'm sure you kill with one. It's just what the consumer getting.
Make it work.
yeah, that it's misrepresented
I was gonna
as,
say.
as American product, and
That's the biggest
bad
issue.
part.
Yeah, I was gonna say putting Made in USA and Gibson on the
Yeah.
headstock is where everything goes wrong.
It's like we're wrecking a counterfeit $100 bill.
Polly.
Take a whiff of
Oh
that.
yeah.
Take that
Oh, they hit play dirt.
I was just cutting polycarbonate today. It looked just like that.
But it means somebody can lean into that buffing wheel. There's no chance they're going to go through it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good thick coat. Usually they do 2 or
Okay,
3.
yeah,
and
the
it's-
clear coat under that is bulletproof.
Because they're just
I
hosing
mean,
it
you can
down.
smell it from over there.
Thank you.
Tom, you ever painted a guitar before?
Huh? Yeah, I painted it.
Well, it might be a slightly flaming maple veneer.
I'm going to use the.
Yes,
Sander.
Sander.
Sander. Just get
Yeah, the blade got hot.
cut to the chase.
Big, chunky bridge.
Yeah, so what do you just?
Got some travel on it. And you were talking about the knobs being only 1 finger away. Look, the knobs on the gibbo are behind the bar, and those are in front. Not that it's a big deal.
People
To see that
complain
one's in front.
about knob placement on the historic guitar for 10 freaking years. Yeah, and actually the tailpiece was
What did they put them on?
Well,
More of it.
it was more, it looked like it's farther away. Because people
Yeah.
want it as close so they can,
It's lightly flamed. Lightly
Yeah,
that,
yeah. So that is real.
Yeah. And the polyester, when I'm standing on it, is just spitting shrapnel out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You want to saw through the neck and so we can see what that fingerboard looks like?
Yeah. Do you want me to do it
you're getting some version
Straight?
of the truss
Yeah, just go
rod.
across.
just straight
Let's
across?
see what the truss rod is too.
Alright.
I feel guilty about this. You know?
I know. I mean,
Wow, I didn't even.
to be honest, like it's normally, this is drill rod, which is really hard, and it's really hard to cut through. That just cut through.
That's like
butter.
paper. Whatever the fretboard is.
Yeah, it's gotta be ebony.
Yeah, you always do. It's copper, nickel, and then chrome. So even if you do chrome, it's like, oh, it got to be over nickel. They do copper, nickel, chrome.
I was telling Robert that it's not even drill rod in there. They cut it like butter. The truss
It'd
rod.
be magnetic.
Oh, you-
It would
you cut right
disturb
through
the
it?
field. Yeah,
It
it's
just
brass.
yeah
And
just
also,
yeah,
you couldn't punch
nothing.
steel, the amount
You
of
couldn't
power.
punch it.
But what's
Two-piece
interesting is over
rod.
time, those crisp corners went away.
You see like a Gibson has just a single rod,
And then it
and
rounded
then this
out.
part's all
That's
wood. It's
just like
maple
the other thing you were talking
pressed
about.
in there, so it's hardened.
Oh, fixed truss
This-
rod.
I'm sure Joe.
This they use that metal.
Well, that's why there's no nut.
You've seen where it wears through the cover.
Oh,
Bruce
no.
Conti, the Power guy. He had an all
Is this
mahogany
in-
gold top. He wore right through the cover.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
flat
it
bar
is.
on top.
No, I see, it is a double.
I
It's a
refinished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
it's
all-
And then what is this material, do you think? Some
I
kind of
refinished
wood
it
that they
all,
dyed black?
A gold top mahogany top,
Yeah.
57.
Where's that razor
And it was
blade? I don't
white
think this
paint,
is-
white
looks
house
like
paint,
ebony.
which I got off with naphtha and a little elbow grease. And since it was mahogany, and the guy never had a
This is
paper
great. I'm
on
gonna
it,
put
it was
this all
from
back
Chicago.
together. And that'll
It
be
was
the-
worn this big down into the
thumbnail
mahogany, but that deep with the guy's fingernails.
It's too open grain to be ebony. That's not ebony, is it? Look how open grain it is.
A lot of things are
Probably
composite now.
plastic.
You know the
Plastic.
like
Yeah,
the
but
paper or
it's got a
plastic,
grain-
whatever.
It's got a grain pattern in it. Looks like dyed black something or other, but it's hard.
I don't know if they could dye it that
Fiberglass.
deep, but can I borrow that razor blade?
Oh, we'll find out when she glue it back together.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
It'll sound better. Doesn't smell like ebony.
It doesn't scrape, like it either.
I mean, why would they?
Yeah, there
listen,
you go.
why would they spend $2 if they spent $2 on a piece of ebony, which is the cheapest ebony you could get on earth? You'd have that would be about 1/10 of the
I'd
parts
say it's
budget. for this
rich
whole
light.
instrument.
Yeah, Richlight or some.
Yeah, but
They
look
have
at
the
the grain.
grain
Look at the
printed
grain.
in the top. I mean, they went all out to do that. But it doesn't seem too much like plastic. But you wouldn't, penetrate a piece of wood that deep with dye. They'd take you
But
long.
they also take that softwood and press it down.
It's a nice neck.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
just-
compressed.
And
Yeah.
they put dye in it, so it is dye.
Yeah,
I think that's
okay.
what this is. This is
Yeah.
pressed dyed wood.
Yeah.
That's killer.
Do you use that one more on
I was
sessions
using
or the
both.
bursts?
I was
Just
using that
both
one
kinda?
today all day, but they're very different. They sound different. The 58 burst I have sounds very different than that acoustically and electrically. Like even though they're very similar. Yeah,
Was there a weight difference?
this one's a tinge lighter, but it's amazing how different they sound acoustically too. They both sound really good plugged in, but this one has a little more bright snarl on the bridge. Just a little more. It's a little more aggressive than the burst. The burst is a little more mellow.
It's all fake. But
Gentlemen, great to see you.
man.
Yes.
Good to see
Yeah.
you guys.
Thanks again for coming.
No
down.
problem, Nick.
Thank you for making it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Did you
bro.
see the
Thank you, Tom.
Mirabella's done?
yeah, man.
Yes.
All right, everybody, thank you all so much for tuning in. I really hope that this video helps somebody. I hope that there's something that was pointed out that can maybe red flag a guitar and save somebody from buying one of these fakes. I think it is extremely wrong, and just it's lying to put Gibson and Made in USA on the headstock of a guitar that is not either of those things. So it's something that is very upsetting to me, and I hope that this stops people from getting these thinking that they are real. So other than that, thank you to everybody who took the time to come down here. Like I said before, a big thank you to both Joe Glazer and Nick Drusel, so instrumental in helping me set this up. It was, organizing 6 schedules is, a juggling at its finest. So thank you all. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you all with the next video. Bye, homies. Later.